Today's episode is about the cost of indecision. This has been a big one that is coming up in my work lately with women. And it is top of mind for me because I've been seeing it over and over again. And also, paired with that is how challenging it is for most people to keep their agreements. It's been really interesting. Napoleon Hill from the book Think and Grow Rich, based on all of the research around successful people, has a very powerful quote, which is successful people make decisions quickly and rarely change them, if ever. This is so fascinating to me because I grew up, and in fact, I've had my own epiphany recently where indecision, I've realized, has traditionally kept me safe. And I'm wondering if that's the same for you. And I'm wondering if this is why this is happening with so many people, particularly women. Growing up, I was always looking to get my dad's approval, and it was safer to be indecisive because then I could morph and change based on what other people expected or wanted from me. And boy, this is something that I never would have. Well, let's just put it this way. It is not something that was immediately available to me as an insight. And this is what I love about the power of personal growth because we're always growing. We always have the opportunity to grow and learn, be more aware, and then do something about it. So, I want to share a couple of stories and wondering if these relate to you. I've also got 5 tips for you related to what the real cost is and really how to think about this. So, first of all, if I go back to my corporate life, on the leadership team, every year we would go around, 7 of us, and give each other feedback, like what was going well, what could we do better. And 2 years in a row, the same guy talked to me about wavering and not wavering. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow. And what I have come to learn now, many years later, is that like my first discovery around that was, why do I do this? And the discovery was I wanted to make sure, because I grew up as that people pleaser. You don't want to rock the boat. And if you're too decisive, then there's something like, I don't even know exactly what it is, but basically it's not safe to be decisive because people can judge you, all those things. People are judging us anyway. I mean, frankly, but I'm feeling very energized about this today because I have been seeing this in so many people. The other part of my story around indecision is simply, I can still remember as a kid in high school where I was asked to go to the homecoming dance by 2 different guys. And I could not make up my mind because I didn't want to disappoint either of them. And at the end of the day, what I think indecision is about for many of us is that we're afraid of being rejected or not accepted, which technically is the same thing. And it is so fascinating. I remember my mom would come in and tuck me in at night and say, Karen, Jesus will show you the way. I mean, I was so verklempt about this decision to choose, and then always wondering, did I make the right decision? I have a very close friend who is always second guessing herself, and it is costing us. It is costing us, and I want this to stop. So that's why I'm doing this episode today, specifically about this. Number 1, opportunity doesn't wait for clarity. So when you're weighing options, someone else is moving. The cost isn't just delay, it's the deal not closed or the idea that wasn't pitched, the salary negotiation that wasn't asked, the visibility that you did not claim. And indecision itself, it doesn't preserve opportunity. It actually transfers it. So how about that? That is not fun to think about. And it is so powerful to remember to just decide. And then you can change your mind if you want to. Not that you want to be constantly changing your mind, but that's what's interesting about the research that's in that book, Think and Grow Rich, around successful people make decisions and rarely change them, if ever. And thank you, Susan Glusica, for bringing that to my attention. So that's number 1. Opportunity doesn't wait for clarity. And I will also add to this one, perfection. I grew up with a perfectionist mother and a critical father. And between the two of them, I always felt like I could do nothing right and everything has to be exactly perfect before taking action. which is so fascinating when you think about this and how our childhood shapes who we are today. Number two, you train people how to respond to you. When you hesitate, your team hesitates. This is the same feedback that I got many years ago in my corporate life. When you delay, they stall. Indecision at the top creates drag across the entire organization, and the cost multiplies through every person waiting on you. I have had a few conversations, so I am not coaching that many people anymore. I coach 3 to 5 women a quarter, depending upon, sometimes it just depends. But I have been amazed lately at how hard it is for somebody to keep an agreement. So for example, we might have a conversation and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm interested in that." And this could be any line of work. Somebody shows interest in something, either that you're selling, or maybe it's a project or even a volunteer opportunity. And then they say, "I'll get back to you." And usually that's where conversations end. But what we need to do is get agreement. And what's fascinating is even when you get agreement, how often people don't keep it. So this just happened to me recently where somebody said, "Oh, I can definitely get back to you Friday." So I sent a follow-up email. "Great. I look forward to hearing from you by the end of day Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time." And she didn't respond. So then I needed to follow up. And there's obviously different reasons why people don't respond, but a lot of times it's that fear of disappointing people or the fear of indecision, going back to that. And that's why it's so important to remember that your success is going to be very much connected to your decisiveness. Number three, confidence. Confidence erodes in the silent. Okay, let me say that again. Confidence erodes in the silence. And what I mean by this is like the friend of mine who's always questioning herself. Each moment you don't decide reinforces self-doubt. You start questioning your instincts instead of sharpening them. The cost isn't just one decision, it's the weakening of your internal authority over time. And I can tell you from personal experience that I have had this problem. And it is so fascinating when you start that self-trust of keeping agreements with yourself. So I grew up with such a focus on achievement and accomplishment that frankly, I kind of got tired of it after being a child, a kid, like all this achievement, even though I love achieving things and I'm still a high achiever, there is something that I have learned over time that if I don't trust my decisions, because sometimes it's just, you know what, I don't want to put a hefty goal on myself. I grew up doing that. So I'll be a little lax. Well, when you start getting a little lax here and then a little lax there, you don't continue to focus on that decisiveness, and that confidence connects with that, or that lack of confidence. So full disclosure, I'm going to be really personal here with you for a moment, although that might sound like a big lead into something. It's probably not that big of a deal. But I never cared traditionally about making my bed. Growing up, my mom just closed the door. She was religious about making her bed every day. So I think that was probably my way of rebelling as a kid. Like, this territory is going to be mine. So I haven't traditionally made my bed, nor have I cared that much about it, even as an adult. But something shifted in me earlier this year. January 1st, I started making my bed every day, and it feels so good to have that bed made. It is so funny. It's less about what people talk, oh, it's that feeling of accomplishment, which I think is great for those people that need that, which I think, again, no judgment here. I don't know why I said it like that. But the big aha for me is how it feels when I look at the bed. It's like, oh. And I used to think, well, I'm hardly ever in my bedroom anyway after I get up. And then I just basically come back to bed at night when I'm ready to go to bed. But that act of committing that to myself, realizing, oh, I like this. And I didn't set out of, I am going to make my bed every single day. But the satisfaction of seeing it made, and how that frankly shifted my nervous system a little bit, which I didn't even realize would happen, has made me want to keep doing it. So it's those small habits that over time can make a difference. I also committed in January to having no sugar. for the most part, mostly no desserts. I crossed the line when I realized balsamic vinegar had sugar in it. And I said, there's no way that I can just fully do no sugar. I did that once with the Whole30 program years ago, and that was really challenging and not sustainable. So I did that, but it was the decision. I made the decision and then I did it. I didn't waver. I didn't wonder. I didn't feel tempted when other people were eating things I wanted to eat at all. Again, I continued to be astonished, especially most recently around the power of decisiveness. So you don't want to weaken that internal authority because it sucks, frankly, when you don't really trust yourself anymore to keep your own word to yourself. Number 4, you default to lower value work. This was a big one for me when I realized, like, oh my gosh, I have done that. Indecision often shows up as overthinking, over researching, or maybe you say, oh, just one more pass. I'm going to try this, or I'm going to ask a million people. And boy, I have also had this challenge where I've asked too many people for their opinions, and then I can't even find myself anymore. So it keeps you busy, but not impactful. And the cost is staying in analysis instead of influence. When we're constantly analyzing, we stay in that paralysis. We've got to be able to move forward. Number 5, speed builds trust when paired with thoughtfulness. So hear me out on this one. Leaders aren't trusted because they're always right. They're trusted because they're decisive. Even a directional decision creates momentum. Indecision creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is expensive. So very important to remember this. Now, you could argue, yes, they're trusted because you've got to have psychological safety and empathy and all of these other things, likability. People need to feel safe with you and feel comfortable. And yet that decision is what builds trust through that speed of decisiveness. So it's really important to remember, because waiting to be 100% certain, and boy, I can tell you this from personal experience, is often the most costly decision of all. I want to remind you to trust yourself. That is really important. I wrote a whole book about it. Trust your own voice, how to grow your influence through confident communication. And the other thing that I want to say about this is how much emotional and mental stress you put on yourself when you're constantly second guessing, being up at night, not figuring out what you want. Just decide. And it was so funny. Last night I was driving, my husband and me, through the streets of San Francisco, and I had in mind the direction I wanted to go. I drive all the time. I know all the ins and outs. I'm going to get in this lane so I can go to that thing, and then I'll get there faster. And he says, why don't you go that way? Or, oh yeah, I'm surprised that you're not turning there. It wasn't him saying, please do it. It just was enough that made me think, well, maybe that way is more efficient. Maybe he knows something I don't know. And then I'm thinking, it took us so much longer to get there. We were stuck in so much traffic. And if I had just trusted myself, gone the way that I wanted to go, it would have made a difference. But we were laughing about it because he goes, well, you decided. You made a decision. And, we lived through it. It's fine. You decide, you try these things out, you see what happens, and then you go from there. And I have seen the cost of indecision in my life, and I am over it. I am over it myself. I am over it in others. Well, I can't control what any other people do, but I will tell you that is why I feel so passionate about this episode, because I don't want you to be wasting any more time with indecision, second guessing, wondering, oh, what did I do? Did I do it right? All of that. In your heart of hearts. So here's an exercise to offer you. And thank you, Susan Glusica, for reinforcing this. Put your hand on your heart in the moment. Just put your hand on your heart and say, what is the best decision for me right now? Or what do I need to decide? Something where you take a moment of pause so that you can really feel what is the right thing. Your heart knows, your intuition knows, and that is powerful. So go out, get after it, make those decisions. And remember, I'm always here as a resource for you. I would greatly appreciate any leads for potential speaking engagements, because I'm doing more and more of them, and they are so fun. and I see the impact that they're having every day. So if this podcast and what I've shared, if my message has influenced you in any way, shape, or form, I would love an introduction to someone you know, potentially for high stakes conversation, public speaking, commanding the room of any way, shape, or form. And I also would greatly appreciate a review to the podcast so that we can get this spread out to more people. We're almost at 50,000 downloads, so that's pretty exciting. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day and get after it. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other people find the podcast faster, and it certainly helps me. Remember, you too can stand out with unshakable confidence.